In Doom 2016 exists a particular demon that in my opinion almost seems somewhat out of place. Most of the demons are fairly sapient as far as we know, albeit quite brutal, but this specific demon we are discussing today is much more animalistic and appears to share, based on morphological characteristics, some form of connection with the cacao demon. Where does it all start? Let's answer this question and many more as we discuss the lore and morphology of the Pinky demon from Doom 2016. So jumping straight into this thing, what exactly am I talking about? Well, according to UAC report file YX7348LC, pinkies will charge once prey is detected using their cortical bone plate that covers their face as a battering ram. They accelerate quickly and have limited control while charging. Their inability to stop quickly or turn makes them vulnerable to charging over ledges or into hard surfaces, stunning them. At close range, the pinky has significant bite, which it can be used to fend off attackers. They have limited visual perception and rely primarily on pheromone detection to locate enemies. The thinner skin on their flanks does not offer any protection and should be considered a point of weakness. But this is discussing how they act. The real information we need is concerning the gnawed carcasses of the pinkies that have been extracted from portals, suggesting that they are a delicacy in hell. Apart from the beginning, which we'll be covering momentarily, the most interesting part about these files' description of the pinkies is how they are considered, as I said, a delicacy in hell. As far as we know, while demons are somewhat aggressive to one another and will attack if another gets in their way, they usually don't consider another demon of their world outright food. This suggests two things. The first is clearly the pinky is of a lower pecking order concerning the food chain, but that this creature is also closer to being an outright animal in this plane of existence. So join me, if you will, for a side discussion about hell. I have been covering these demons for a while now, and something keeps popping up: how they act. These creatures are beginning to appear more and more like they have not all existed at once in hell, but are actually a collected species from different universes. And one line in particular is something that raises my interest, because if you look deep enough into their body structures, you will begin to see some changes are quite evident as hell energy has afflicted the species. I am, of course, connecting the pinkies to the cacao demons as mentioned previously. Now, before you click away and say I'm a madman, I can explain almost every structure and its changes on the pinky's body and how it may have turned from an original creature into the cacao demon. But to do that, first we will need to run down its morphological traits and figure out what exactly the pinky demon has that the cacao demon does not have. And of course, this appears to be my MO as usual, starting with the feet. We see 3 large clawed toes and a flat pad-like foot. Foot structure is much like that of the animals on Earth, where they walk on their toes and the heel continues up into the air. The feet are lined with chitinous armor that protects the most vital areas used for locomotion from damage. Moving further up, or actually considering the structure of the leg, moving further to the side, we get to the shin and calves. In its normal standing position, this portion of the leg is at a 90-degree angle, give or take a few degrees, to the foot. This makes the knee jut out directly over the toes, and the knee is also a reinforced portion of the body. Sporting the same chitinous body armor as the foot, this is designed to protect the knee from attacks, considering this portion of the leg is exposed, and if it were to run into a hard surface, the knee would not shatter, it would be protected by the armor. What I find pretty cool about this structure is the shin and calves exist almost behind the knee and does not sport the same armor. This indicates that this creature's evolutionary path is one of frontal attacks and how that was going to be considered the norm. And considering its charge attack, this is to be expected. The quadriceps are more of the same in terms of chitinous material, but they are adorned with bony spikes near the pelvic region. This will be important for later. The belly of the pinky seems to be lined with protrusions of bone, specifically grown to protect the internal organs of the creature, seeing as the skin is a major weak point of this demon. These bony plates run all the way to the back to a stout and muscular tail tipped with a large piece of bone. This bone is more than likely there to provide protection from bites and could be used as a weapon should anything get close. The pinky, in theory, could swing this around using the tail like a bat. However, a creature would need to be within biting range for this to happen. Moving further at the back, we see that this creature has some pretty severe weak points adorning its body. As you can see, where the bone of the tail ends, there is just soft pink skin on its back, and this is where the nickname Pinky comes from. But this skin is also easily pierced by gunfire and presumably the teeth of other demons. There are a few bony ridges on the back, but for the most part, these are going to offer little protection. Continuing towards the head of the creature, we see that the chitinous armor has once again made an appearance in between the shoulder blades. Protecting the shoulders and upper back of the creature, these chitinous growths will exist in this area in greater density than in other areas of the skin. What is fascinating concerning the spine is that it pierces the skin of this creature and horns tip each vertebrae. These horns are more than likely there for defensive purposes in case this creature were to have anything jump on it and then try to take a bite out of it. On the shoulder pads themselves are little bony spikes that are used more than likely for the purpose of inflicting puncture wounds should anything get past the pinky's main charge. These might be able to catch the sides of humans or other demons, injuring them in the process. Down the arms, we see the bicep and tricep region is left virtually unguarded, much like that of the shin and calf region. However, they seem to sit back behind the shoulders of this creature in terms of position, meaning that it is an intentional evolutionary trait. The forearms are covered once more in this thick armor plating, providing protection from damage, and it has the ability to deal damage as well. At the elbow region exists a larger bony spike, or really a collection of them, which could be used offensively in an elbowing motion, causing large open wounds. The hands of this creature are very stumpy, but what you might think are fingers are really just jagged claws. These claws will be used for slashing and eviscerating enemies quite easily should a fight arise. The fingers of this creature aren't really seen, as they may have fused together due to the plating growth, but there does appear to be some fingers in there somewhere based on the location of the claws, however. Coming to the head of the creature, we see its main offensive weapon that this demon possesses. The chitinous armor is sparse in the area, but the skull appears to be quite thick, especially on the forehead. Hashtag can relate.
Fake laugh, hiding real pain.
Along with that sits two horns on either side, which are clearly for goring anything caught in its path. Two red eyes sit in their anatomically correct positions, and we could assume that this is a predator instead of prey based on where these eyes they sit forward. However, it should be noted that the Pinky's eyesight is very poor, and as mentioned in the UAC report file, it does base most of its hunting on smell. But then we get to the mouth. The mouth of the Pinky is one built for devastation. It anecdotally is referred to as able to bite your fragging head off, and judging by how large of a bite this creature has, that is not surprising. The teeth of the creature are several inches in length and all pointed and sharp. There are no grinding teeth, so it is purely carnivorous. At the end of the mouth exists two large tusks used for further goring and injury infliction. Looking at the mouth though, we also see connective tissue points. Presumably this would allow the Pinky to have an astronomically high bite force. On our jaws, the muscles sit further back, meaning that it is weaker due to the longer bone. And judging by the size of the head and where the muscles sit, the bite force of the Pinky would be weaker, but these 2 points on either side rectify this issue by moving the biting pressure further up the mouth. Overall, the Pinky demon stands at roughly 8 feet tall, concerning its tallest spike. This works out to about 2.48 meters. Its weight, judging by its size, would be more than, well, much more than a gorilla, I would say, by comparison. I've been told that I have been conservative with the weights in the past, but I would hypothesize that each leg roughly weighs about 200 pounds. The arms would more than likely be 100 pounds each, so the limbs alone put this thing at 500 pounds. The tail, based on the size and bone in the area, would be roughly about 150 pounds. The abdomen and chest combined would more than likely be in a range of about 350 pounds, judging by its size and volume. The head is quite large, and basing this off the tail, I would say it couldn't be any more though than about 100 pounds. This puts us at a grand total of around 1,100 pounds, but honestly, I would say it's more likely in a range of 900 to 1,200 pounds. And don't worry, I've got the metric measurements. This works out to 408.23 to 544.3 kilograms in total. Once again, a heckin' chonker. So I promised you a bit of a conspiracy theory concerning the Pinky. Personally, I do not believe the Pinky existed in its current form as a native from hell. I believe it is an early primitive form of the cacao demon, or perhaps one that did not have as great of an amount of exposure to the Lazarus waves. I judge this based on a couple things. The cacao demon, as discussed in my earlier video, which I will put a link up on screen, definitely had some examples of evolution due to the shriveled limbs it has, meaning that at one point it used to use these limbs. I also hypothesize that this meant the creature was not from hell, but actually existed in another universe prior. If you take a close look at its limbs, it matches up with the Pinky's normal limbs. 3 claws, albeit desiccated, exist on the cacao demon, just like the Pinky. The chitinous armor matches up in the same locations on the front and housing most of the armor on the shoulders and back. However, the lower back is suffering from an extreme lack of chitinous armor. Another similarity is the spinal ridge. On both the cacao demon and the Pinky sits these bony ridges and bony protrusions. The similarities are undeniable and would almost be too much of a coincidence for them to not be related somehow. But I hear you. Why does the cacao demon have 1 eye but the Pinky has 2? Well, it is seen in humans as well. In some humans, there is 1 ocular cavity sitting in the same area the cacao demon would sport its ocular cavity, meaning that changes to the face concerning eyes are really not that rare, but actually quite quite common. And seeing as morphologically the cacao demon shares multiple morphological features with the pinky, in my mind it's pretty clear that the pinky is a demonic bastardization of whatever the original creature is, then exposed to enough hell energy becomes a cacao demon whose limbs shrivel from lack of use. The pinky demon is one who likely on its homeworld would have been quite strong and a force to be reckoned with. Charging when it detected prey, it uses its strong headbutt and horns to damage a creature beyond the ability to move. Upon hitting the Doomslayer, it appears this hit is hard enough to take him out, crushing the armor and piercing the body, bones, and organs. These would all be decimated in the process, leading to a quick expiration. However, how does the Doomslayer take out the pinky? Well, in quite a few ways. Considering a pinky stuns itself when it hits a wall or hits something hard instead of soft, the Doomslayer can get around the back of it and grab onto its weakest point. He will completely tear the tail away from the pinky, snapping the spine in the process. Honestly, this would completely stun any creature, but he will then utilize the bony growth of the back of the tail and will smack the pinky in the face. And considering the strength that the Doomslayer has, this is solid bone and it will crack the skull of the demon, causing internal bleeding, more than likely liquefying the brain in the process. The next involves the use of a tusk. If the Doomslayer is able to, he will remove the tusk of the creature before turning it back and annihilating the eye, once again presumably piercing the ocular cavity and causing bleeding in the brain. The second tusk takedown, he will remove the tusk and slice the neck, quickly taking it out. And the last most painful way, at least in my opinion, the Doomslayer will jump down on the creature, opening the mouth. It might have a great bite force, but it is not strong enough. The Doomslayer will rip open its mouth well beyond its standard movement, dislocating the jaw and killing the creature by more than likely shoving bone into its brain. The Pinky Demon, that shares some major similarities with the Cacao Demon, is one that is hunted in the plains of hell. Truly, this thing got a raw deal, but that is going to wrap it up for this episode. Also, I just wanted to point out that I know I haven't covered the Spectre Pinky, but I do intend on doing an episode on that a little later on because of the genetic altering. I think that it's interesting enough that it should probably have its own sort of episode. So that's why you did not see it in this episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed me covering the Pinky Demon from Doom 2016. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I will drop my Discord, Twitter, and Patreon links in the description. If you're interested in discussing anything or, anything like that, just hit me up on Twitter. And if you would like to support the channel, Patreon's there as well. And speaking of Patreon, I would like to thank my patrons. At the Scientist tier, we have Arulam Lupe. Next up, our residents are A. Laurentis, Evan Osborne, Greater Genes 83, Oz Hickman, and Richard Muhlenberg. With their PhD in genetics, we have Allison Caspero, Andrew Lawson, Divine Whisper, Laffy No Skill, and Steve M. Holding it down with their Masters in Biology, we have Adam Hartswick, Brendan Brotherton, Cameron Smith, Edgy McGee, Scott Grant, The Rinda Lies, and The Otterman. And last but not least, with their Bachelors in Morphological Sciences, we have Ahigao Comics, Alex the Gun Guy, Anthony Charles West, Anthony Wolf, Captain Gasmask, Dustin Ellis, Eric Scott Gillies, Jims, Professor Bennips, Riot, Russell McBride, Santos Lopez, and Zachary Baker. Thank you guys for your continued support. So, I got a new mic. I hope everything sounded better. I hope this does sound good. I know in one of my live streams it was like a little bit of a weird hiss, but I think I figured out what the issue is. So, anyhow, thanks for watching Roanoke Gaming, and I will see y'all in the next one.